All right, can you tell us your name?
Gerene Taylor,
Okay, and your maiden name?
Rhodes, Rhodes.
All right. What is your birthday?
November the 8th, 1939.
Okay. Where were you born?
Messer, Oklahoma.
There in Messer, at the house?
Yep.
Okay.
The house is still there, actually.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Who were your parents?
Bill Rhodes and Fanny Forbes Rhodes.
Okay. Tell us some things you remember about your parents.
You know, probably just one single word would apply to them, and that's work. Non-stop, you know. It's just, of course, my mother moved here from Arkansas, and she was used to like hauling rock and chopping cotton, and the first Sunday that they were here, they went to church, and she wrote back to her sister, there is a real nice looking man at church. He's the only one that had on khakis. He stuttered very badly. After they were married, my mother put an oilcloth on the table, and she taught him how to read music. But now it was done in rote, not note. Not people know. You know what rote is? Do, so, mi, do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, he got that down. When he was leading singing, he never started to stutter. Yeah. Actually, I didn't know that he stuttered that badly until, you know, my mother had told me. But as he got older, he reverted back to the stuttering.
Well.
Mm-hmm.
So you were born here in Choctaw County,
Mm-hmm.
and you've been around the world some. So tell us about some of the places you've been.
Okay, the first place was the island of Sumatra, which is in Indonesia. We were there 5.5 years. It was so remote that we had to go to Singapore for supplies. Now, we did have a driver, a night watchman, a day watchman, a cook, who washed the clothes on a rock. They asked me right off if I would be president of the petroleum club. You know, I was just agreeable to anything to get to meet someone. An Indian lady come to the house, and she brought with her a sari to give to me. She came back the next day wanting the sari back because her husband demanded that she come and get it.
So what brought your family to Choctaw County originally?
Yes, you know, I'm not real sure about my dad's side. I'm more in tune with what my mother had told me. One of her sisters in Arkansas had married someone from here, and just all the rest of them decided to move because she lived here. I was hoping, like my cousin that lives in California, I mean, he's a preacher, so he's so eloquent, and like you, he's got a beautiful voice and everything, but he remembers things that, I do remember people out there by the name of Granny Chenault, Granny Woodruff, we all called him Granny back then, let's see, Miss Chenault, Miss Spiegel. There's another lady that I remember we had Easter egg hunts out there, and an uncle of mine said, I'll give 50 cents for the one that finds the prize egg. I found it, but he never gave me the, you know, it's ruined me for the rest of my life. Actually, I do need to mention they probably, the people that I'm talking about, probably grew up much poorer than you did. You know, dirt floors and things like that. I had a first cousin. Her name was Lois Forbes. She went to school here. She married this man he was a teacher, ended up being principal and everything. Well, you cannot believe the success of the two sons. You must look them up. They are the most interesting. One of them is wanting to make a movie out at Messer.
Really?
And right away I said, I won't end it. I won't. I'll fix this. Newman is their name, Steve. But one is an extremely good writer. But of course she's not alive right now, so she would be proud of those two boys.
I'm sure she would.
Yeah.
So you said your family lived at Messer. Just for the people who aren't from this county, explain where Messer is.
Yes.
And where your family lived in relation to where Messer itself is.
Yeah. You go 9 miles down Highway 93. You come to a four-way where the Messer Volunteer Fire Department is. You go 1 mile south of there, and then you turn back to the left where my parents lived. They've always, you know, the longer people live in a home, the more people associate with it. Was called the old Rhodes place, and they still refer to it today as the old Rhodes place, and it's just vacant. No, nothing's there, you know. It was a strong community. Now, in 1927, 28, my dad helped build that Church of Christ that's out there. And was it 1982 when the big tornado came?
I believe so, yes. I believe so.
Blew it to pieces, along with several other people's homes. My dad rebuilt it. The steeple and all that you see, he built it in his garage. But as you go in that church, there's kind of a discolored piece of paper of who all contributed to build the first church. Well, Harvey Wright was one of the original settlers. So was Deerwood Wright. Did you ever know of Dewey Griffin?
No.
He's another one that could be real helpful. Like I say, every corner that was the Catherine corner or the Fur corner, or, if you are, everybody is just known by the people who live there, you know, and I'm sure many people don't even remember those places. I guess that's what communities do. Kind of, one road is named after one of the old school teachers, Miss Mashburn, Howard Mashburn's grandmother. Excuse me. It was just see, we moved to town when I was 3. So as far as saying I lived such and such a place, the move to town was in a panel pickup, you know, with the sides.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, Highway 93 was not paved, and the drop-off was steep. I think that's when the word fear entered my vocabulary. I held on to the panel, thinking for sure we were going to be killed because this, you know, so steep. I know that my mother said that I grew up on Tri Street. You know, that's the street that goes into the cemetery. She said that when I went in the bathroom, the first thing I said, I am not going to sit on that stump. So that's kind of my illustrious background as far as, Messer, and anybody that y'all know of, I might could add a little more. It was just a close community. Janet, she works at, or did work at the First City drugstore. Now then she's over the Boys and Girls Club. You know her?
Mm-hmm.
Her grandfather was the one that performed the ceremony for my mother and dad.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Henry Hutchins was his name.
How did your family support themselves when you were a child?
I guess there wasn't any need for outside work. They grew everything themselves. Mother canned. Now, I think Dad did drive a school bus for a period of time. I think my mother was the level-headed one. She always told the story about Dad buying a donkey, and he led it home, and she said, "Bill, that donkey is blind." But going back to my older brothers, when we moved, they had to lead the cow down 93 to the house that we grew up in on Tri Street.
Wow.
I don't think I have a brother that would do that now.
So how many children were in your family?
Originally 10, but let's see, 4 of them. There's a cemetery out there called the Woodlawn Cemetery.
Yes.
Yeah, there's 4 of them are there. I think my mother was diabetic even back then. They have a lot of failure of birth complications. So originally 6 of us grew up over there on Tri Street. And the interesting thing about my family is the way other people look at us. They clarify us as overachievers. And we don't even think we are. But we all grew up. No word was ever mentioned. You must go to college. You must get an education. None of us ever heard it. In fact, I didn't go to school half the time because it was more interesting to stay home with my mother. And if I said I didn't want to go to school, she'd say, okay. So I skipped the whole week that they taught Roman numerals. Till today, I've never learned Roman numerals.
Yep.
But isn't that funny how Mother let me get by with that? But it was more fun to stay home with her. Of course, she had grew up in Arkansas, and they went to, it was called literaries back then, and everything was done by memorization. So she had all these poems that she'd memorized, all these little songs. That was the first time I had ever heard "Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, Swing High, Sweet Chariot."
Yep.
Let's see. Now, Mrs. Have you either one of y'all ever been to Messer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you didn't go to Messer school, you went to what's called Pine Lake, which is about maybe 6 miles from Messer. The house is, at one time it was a school, then it was a church, and then it was a home. But a friend of mine, we decided one day that we were going to drive out there and try to find that lake. We stopped probably 4 or 5 people, asking, "Would you mind telling us where Pine Lake is?" They said, "Well, we've never heard of it." No one remembered a lake out there. It had to be a lake at one time, but they certainly made us aware that they were not familiar with it. So.
We'd have to find the old maps before the Hugo Lake was put in.
Oh goodness, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, probably. I know my dad. He was born in Indian Territory. He was born in 1906, and it was 1907 when Oklahoma became a state. his relatives came from Brandon, Mississippi. I do not recall. All I remember, now his dad was very well known. He was a friend of Alfalfa Bill Murray.
Really? Okay.
Let's see, he had a lot of funny stories to tell about Alfalfa Bill. But when he went to, twice he went to the state capitol to meet with him, and the whole time the governor sat like this with his feet on the desk, on his desk.
Mm-hmm. That was the way he did things.
His name was actually William Jennings, named after the president. You know.
Yes.
But everyone just shortened it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, when we were growing up, he had a hardware appliance store where I think Dave's Electric is now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of the children, were you oldest, youngest?
Youngest.
Youngest, okay.
My brother, the one, the heart surgeon, he was 5 years younger than I.
Okay. What did you and your brothers and sisters do in your spare time?
Work. That's the way they kind of measured people.
Mm-hmm.
If you were a good worker, you were a fine person. Yeah. But we had a lot of cousins that would come. It was fun playing with them. And that seems like, in fact, 3 of them had gotten married at our house. It had a oval-shaped or semi-shaped arch, and Mother would decorate that. And that may be why I have had 9 weddings here, but no more. No. They all say, "We will help, don't worry." Guess who did the work?
Mm-hmm. Where did you go to school?
Robert E. Lee, Third Ward. Yeah, there was a real contest between Third Warders and First Warders. We always accused the First Warders of being the rich kids, but we were undefeated when it came to baseball. No one could beat Third Ward. So, and from there, let's see. Excuse me. See, I got married right out of high school. We moved to Houston, and I went to the University of Houston for 2 years, and then we moved back to Hugo, and I ended up going to Southeastern. But I also went to King's College in Perth, Australia. See, I probably have enough hours that I could easily have my master's, but about the time I'd finished, we'd move to another country.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the most fun in another country is learning another language. And if anybody could learn, Indonesian, Bahasa Indonesian, it's kind of me, Tarzan, you, Jane. But really, truly, they have a lot of Arabic words in their language. And some Arabic words I can pick up on it. But now Howard, my son, actually speaks it more fluently than I did because he was with the night watchman and the maid and all those, So, and I had an instructor that had her degree from University of Indiana that knew English more better than I did. She asked me one day, I said something about, are you going to the fair? And she asked me if I was going, and I said, well, where's it going to be at? She said, now that is a question leg. Have you ever studied a question leg? I tried to think if I was ever taught that. I had never heard of the expression before, question leg, but it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Now here's where you get to tell us some stories you remember about your childhood. Just anything you want to tell us.
Excuse me. Can I mention when I was dating?
Yes.
I ended up marrying him. Should have known better. We were parked out front in the car, arguing. Then it was popular to wear their class ring around their neck, you know. He jerked it off of my neck and threw it across. I heard it hit the roof of the building. Well, the sheriff lived there. And we made up, you know, in a day or two, and I went over there and found that ring. But anyway, my dad had come to the door and he said, "It's time for you to come in." I said, "Okay, be there in a minute." He come a second time. He said, "Did you not hear me?" I said, "Okay, I'll be right there." Third time, I did come, and he kind of slapped me on the side of the face. Well, my bedroom was upstairs, and I heard this knock at the door, and it was David, my date at the time. And he said, "Mr. Rhodes, I just come to apologize." He said, "That's my fault." Well, that just so endeared him to me. I thought that he's got to be nice to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that, but in younger days, we went a lot on Sunday afternoons out to Messer, because we had, my mother's mother lived out there, and just had, I don't know, 20, 25 cousins to play with. But till today, in fact, that movie, City Slickers, did you ever see it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Every time we would get out of the car, my cousins would say, "Here comes those City Slickers." I just learned, I could not believe they actually made a movie out of that. It's the same thing. I jokingly, you know, we're so swamped with information. You know, I call it information overload. You know, it's just every which way you turn, you know. And I've used it in emails. I used to actually write for 2 newspapers. Anyway, I was watching television one day, and they were interviewing this man that had written a book, Information Overload. So I said right then, I deserve part of the profits of
There
that
you
book.
go. What is the earliest thing you can remember?
Probably the big house
Okay.
that actually I grew up in. It was a
Okay.
2-story house. It's not there now. You know where Caroline's lives? It's right in
Mhm.
front of her. Actually, we did move a short time to Andrews, Texas. My dad's brother was mayor there, and we had just got settled in until somebody notified a tornado had come through and threw our house off of its blocks. So we returned.
Okay.
So I would have been a Texan.
What is your heritage? Your family's German, Irish?
Yes, they are. More German than anything, and Irish and English there. Yeah, I've got the book, the Ancestry
Right.
book on it.
Okay.
And it was spelled R-H-O-D-E. My dad used to have a radio program, and he would say, somebody had as a guest, and they were talking about building roads. And I thought, well, why are they talking about my dad?
Yep. Any Native American in your family at all, or?
No, and I do have pictures of them, and y'all, they look Indian to me. These are the most, I mean, when we get through, I'll show you those pictures, because I asked everyone if they could identify the clothing that they had on.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Do you speak any other languages besides English?
oh yeah, Indonesian.
Okay.
But if I could learn it, anyone can. It's just a simple Yeah, but except there is a lot of Arabic, Like now, I should be saying to you, Salam Pagi, which is all the best this afternoon, My favorite thing was to tell when we would have a group meeting that we're trying to learn. And this was in Jakarta. By that time, we'd moved from Sumatra to Jakarta. And one would speak to the other one in Indonesian, and your partner had to translate it. Well, I was with this lady from Odessa, Texas, and she said, Apa crowbar. Well, I got so tickled because it means, it's actually pronounced with Apa, Kapa, like that, And she sounded just like she was saying crowbar. And then, one lady was telling us about when she was trying to learn the language, she said to the houseboy, Buka Chanele. Well, that means she meant for him to open the window, but actually it came out she was asking to open his pants. But now Howard and I basically talk. It's hard for us to talk to one another because he learned from what we call kitchen Indonesian or Bahasa, and I had the correct way, the proper way. So, I'm shaking my head at him and he's shaking, and he's like, what are you talking about, But we have a good laugh about it. The Forbes, that's who my mother was before. That's her second cousin. You remember Orville Forbes and his protesting?
Yes, yes.
I think that's where I got my rebelliousness from.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, in fact, I have a brother that looks like it belongs to Orville Forbes.
So your family's related to him?
Yeah, Mother always, she told us how,
Right.
50, 60 years ago.
Okay, did your family have any special traditions?
Sure.
Okay, let's
Going
hear
to
about
church
some.
every time the
There
church
you
doors
go.
was open.
Thanksgiving, Christmas, anything special on those days?
Definitely.
Okay.
As usual, we had cousins. Dad had built a long bench, and that was for the girls that were there for the luncheon. And like, I mentioned previously, the weddings that we had. And Mother would just decorate so pretty, and she didn't have anything hardly to decorate with.
Hey, who did you marry and how did you meet?
Which time?
Take your pick. Go with it.
I married Johnny Taylor. He was born and raised in Basel, but when he served in the armed services, he was actually in Germany, and he was engaged to a girl named Trudy. So when we went back through Germany, everywhere we went, I would pick the ugliest girl, and I'd say, "There's Trudy. Go over there and talk to her." I don't care. Go talk to Trudy. It should just be so ugly. He'd just go.
So how did you and Johnny meet?
This is an interesting story. At the time, did y'all live here when we had the little theater? Oh, y'all, I promise you, Cindy, it was good as anything that Paris had. Wonderful. So I kind of got involved with that, and his niece, she was kind of involved as well. And she had told me about her uncle that had lost his wife. She said he's working in Alaska and he comes home every 2 weeks. Well, for 6 months, I kept saying, "When's your uncle coming in? When's your uncle coming?" She said, "Well, he's kind of shy." So one Wednesday night, he telephoned. And he said, I said, "Hello," and he went, "This is Johnny Taylor." I said, "My goodness, I've been waiting 6 months for you to call. What took you so long?" And Anyway, then the next time he called, it was to take me to eat over at the Colonial House in Paris. I went with him that night, and then the next night he came to meet my children, and then we got married a week later. Just 2 times I've been with him, you know. Johnny was the second John Wayne. He was more John Wayne than John Wayne himself. He was kind of a man's man, cowboy, and I used to say, loved to brag that I was a cattle baron's wife, because we had 2 ranches, you know. But he was a good man, really good to me. And especially, you know, stepfathers are really not that good to stepchildren. It's unreal, especially Emily. He just felt like a boy could kind of take care of himself. Although Howard did live and work for Johnny in 2 different countries. From Sumatra, let's see, let me think. We moved to Singapore. Howard went to the international school, probably the best school in the whole world. It's unreal. You know what they did? If he was late for school, guess who got punished? The parents. Let's see, we were there, I guess, 3 years. From there, we moved to Perth, Australia. That's Western Australia. And was there 5 years, maybe 6. And then we moved to Johannesburg, South Africa. No, wait a minute. We moved to Jakarta, Indonesia. And then from Jakarta to Johannesburg, South Africa. There 5 years as well. The company paid to ship all this stuff home. I said I was never going to buy anything else. The first week we lived in Vietnam, Thai Binh, North Vietnam. They had something going at this rinky-dink hotel if I didn't buy some dishes. Well, then I had to pay for them having them shipped on, so I didn't buy much. But now, I did teach English with this southeastern Oklahoma accent, and particularly in North Vietnam, they had learned proper English. So one little man, he learned how to speak English from VOA, Voice of America. And he, you know, he hadn't mastered it, but we could communicate. Let's see, what was it? He asked, they always raised their hand and stood up, you know, when they had a question to ask. Does all people your village sound like you? I came so close to saying pert near. Let's see, I guess by that time we were ready to come back permanently. Well, the company my husband was with wanted him to work in Kazakhstan. It's a breakaway country from the Soviet Union. So he worked as a consultant for 5 years for them. And I think probably maybe a year or so, the Alzheimer's became very evident.
What did he do for a living?
What did he do?
Yes.
A drilling company, drilling oil, based out of Tulsa at that time. Now then, they're in Houston.
Parker Drilling, or?
Okay. Yeah. He jokingly said, or maybe he was serious, the reason why it took the good Lord 7 days to create the earth is because Parker didn't get the contract.
All right, so tell us about your children.
Emily, she lives here in Hugo, and married to a wonderful, wonderful man that she met when they were both going to OU. She has been with the same attorney for 25 years. She has a son that's 27, whose wife works for the judge. Plus, it's just nothing happens that I don't kind of get a little hint of it. Neither one of them tell the full story, but
Right.
I hear more from Terry Park on Facebook than I do any of my children. And then there's Howard. He received a wonderful, wonderful education. Most of his teachers, usually they were headmasters at whatever school he went to. He does have his master's in national security and working on his doctorate, but he'll never finish it because he's going to, I think the company he and his stepbrother were trying to get out of it. So I think he plans on teaching, I'm not sure. So anyway, it's, we have more fun together, all of us. There's about 12 of us, counting children and grandchildren, and we just have a lot of fun.
You talked about being in North Vietnam. Time frame. Around what time? What years would that have been?
You know what? I didn't mention China. We were there.
Oh,
Beijing,
goodness.
China. I forgot about that. We were there during the Tiananmen uprising. Every place we've lived has been an uprising. Howard received an excellent education.
So you were in North Vietnam before the war or after the
Oh,
war?
way after.
Way
Oh,
after.
yeah.
Way after.
In fact,
okay.
it's just been about maybe 12 years
Okay.
since
All right.
we lived there. And if you ever see a sad look on my face, I'm missing my friends there.
Okay.
Even in teaching English, they were so polite. And but the Asians are so anxious to learn. I don't know, it does the heart good just to look and see how seriously they take learning versus here in America.
Okay, so that takes us into our next question very well. Let's talk about significant historical events that have taken place during your lifetime and how they have affected you or your family.
I think the thing that probably will bear on my mind for the rest of my life is the different countries that we
Okay.
lived in. My husband would jokingly say she would talk to a dead man in the middle of the street. But I had to make friends quickly, In Beijing, there was only one other couple that lived there that was from America. When my husband said to me, now, of course, he was in South America 15 years, Iquitos, Peru, Ecuador. He said, now, my wife liked to wore the airlines out, going back and forth, but she wouldn't stay. I said, oh, I'll stay. Yeah, no problem. I didn't mean 20 more years. But I did get to come home once a month, out of the year, and it was never enough. So,
Tell us some things you know about Choctaw County's history.
Okay, where the Chamber of Commerce is now? That's where the original fire station was. They had horses that pulled the wagons. I can vaguely, but that's imprinted on my memory. So many of the stores that, I once knew, we used to go every day after school for 10 cents. We would go to Henry's Confectionery. It's where Donaldson is now. The Marbits, an old family from here, he owned it at the time. There are just so many stories I have about every business that was started here, and of course now then we know that Sharps has moved out to and I don't think there's any way that our country or little town is ever going to survive as well as it once was. We have a lot of good people from this town. I'm real touchy if anyone criticizes it. I like my little hometown. I'm proud of it. Really, really some wonderful people here.
What are things you would tell people in other countries about Choctaw County or Hugo?
They had never, ever heard. They thought I was from Okinawa. You know, and I would say, Oklahoma. 3 or 4 times. Yeah, we know that. We know Okinawa. It depended on who I was talking with, who I wanted to make. You know, you can tell a lot by a person's sense of humor, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I would say to her, now, the village that I grew up in was named Hugo, and it's known as the intellectual capital of the world. She never caught it. Never caught it.
Tell us about some of the more interesting people you've known while living here in Choctaw County. Just any people that come to mind that you want to talk to us about.
Well, I don't know. I'm from such a large family. I'm just so proud of each one of them. It's a pleasure to be able to say they're related to me. Of course, I'm in awe of both of my children. I just think they're just so much smarter than their mother.
You talked about Bill Moyers
Uh-huh.
earlier. So he's from Choctaw County, although he doesn't really claim it.
That's true, Marshall,
Yeah.
Texas. Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
tell us what you know about him, or just something about
I
him.
actually have a book.
Really?
Yeah. Now, before you leave, y'all got to see my barn. My
Okay.
barn is pretty in my house. It's carpeted. I had the only John Deere tractor that sat on carpet. But I sold my tractor.
Yeah.
um,
Okay, tell us about what you're doing today, or nowadays.
yeah, well, constantly. See, I made a park. That's a park that you see. And I'd love you to come back at night because the Statue of Liberty is lit up.
Oh.
It's beautiful. And then I have another statue that, in fact, my whole yard's lit up kind of at night. You know, Cindy, it's just 7 days a week. I'm out there. Something needs to be done. I do have a hammock that I've laid in maybe 3 minutes because I'm laying there saying, oh my God, I need to do this, I need to do that. And my husband always said down in Gerene, I did not marry you to work like a man. Because it would be dark and I was still out there. Because that was all wilderness, what you're seeing out there. It was all wilderness when I first started. Of course, you know, living in so many different countries that just took so much pride in their flowers and their park, and that was one of the first things when I knew I was going to be here permanently, is I'm going to make a park out of this. But I said to both of my children, what I'd really like to do is, you know that little church out at the cemetery? I'd like to build a little church right on top of the hill over there. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I don't even care if people come. That's what I want. But I will never do it. You know, everything's kind of based on my age, and so I just make a lot of decisions. But I'm in good health, you know.
So what do you think that people that are not from this county should know about Choctaw County?
It has such a bad reputation. Probably most people would take in the educational system. If they had small children, they would inquire about that. And of course, you and I both know the infrastructure is just worst it's ever been due to all the weather that we've had. But you know, you can say, oh, you're going to love, we have so many nice people that live there, and they don't see that. You know, it's it's not because I didn't try. I try to make
Mhm.
people believe that. And we do have maybe 3 or 4 people that's moved here from Michigan.
Okay.
Now, let's see, I think between 2 and 3,000 have moved to Paris. hmm From New York, New Jersey, Michigan. That's a big change for them.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Yeah. You know, I really, you can turn it off if you want to, but I cannot say enough nice things about my husband, Johnny. One of the things that I'd really like to share, the man that did our income tax is in Tulsa, and he was doing it, and he put down his pen, and he said, "Mr. Taylor, you're not making enough money." He said, "You're really valuable to the company." He said, "Well," he said, "you need to ask for a raise." Johnny said, "I've never asked for a raise in my whole life, and I don't intend to." Well, by that time I was kicking him out of the table. And he said, "But Mr. Taylor, business is not run like that anymore." He said, Johnny said, "Well, I'll tell you what. As far as I'm concerned, they pay me more than I'm worth." It's unbelievable at the loyalty he had.
All right. Well, I
All
think
right.
that's good.